published and copyrighted by Values Publications. Chapter 1. The Lost Man Cub. Many strange stories were told about things that happened in the jungles of India, but none is as strange as the story of a boy named Mowgli. It was a warm evening in Seoni, India. In a cave, high in the hills of the jungle, 4 little wolf cubs were playing quietly near their mother. Father Wolf woke from his daily rest, yawned and stretched his strong legs. It was time to go hunting. Suddenly, a frightening roar filled the air. The wolves knew that sound. It was Shere Khan, the bad tiger. Mother Wolf looked out of the cave. She stared in wonder as a tiny brown baby came crawling out of the bushes. "Quick, bring that man cub to me," she said to Father Wolf. Father Wolf went to the baby at once. He picked him up as gently as if he was picking up one of his own cubs. He laid the baby at Mother Wolf's side. The baby sat up and smiled, and then he pushed between the cubs to get closer to Mother Wolf. "He is so soft," said Mother Wolf, "and he is not afraid of us." Just then, Shere Khan's great head and shoulders were at the entrance to the cave. "What do you want?" asked Father Wolf, standing in front of Mother Wolf and the cubs. "I want my prey," roared Shere Khan. "His parents ran off. I saw him come this way. Give it to me." Father Wolf was not frightened. He knew that the mouth of the cave was too narrow for a tiger to enter through. "The man cub is ours now," said Father Wolf. "How dare you! Give me the man cub!" roared the angry Shere Khan. At that moment, Mother Wolf jumped forward. "The man cub is ours!" she shouted, and her eyes blazed with anger. "You will not take him from us. He will live with us, just like one of our own cubs. Leave us in peace. Go back to your part of the jungle." Shere Khan knew that it was useless to argue with Mother Wolf. He backed out of the cave, but as he did so, he shouted, "The man cub will be mine one day!" And he went off down the hill. Father and Mother Wolf decided that they would call the man cub Mowgli. Chapter 2. The Pack Council. On the night of the full moon, Father and Mother Wolf took their 4 cubs and Mowgli to the Council Rock. This was a very special place. All new cubs were sent there to be examined by the whole wolf pack. Mother Wolf was worried about the man cub. He had been a part of the family for 3 weeks now, and Mother Wolf loved him as much as she loved her 4 cubs. However, it was up to the pack to decide whether Mowgli would stay or not. On top of the rock sat Akela, the leader of the pack. Just beside him, in a circle, sat 50 wolves of all ages, some young and some old. In the center of the circle, the new cubs were playing together. One by one, the older wolves came forward to inspect each cub. At last, it was Mowgli's turn. He sat in the middle of the circle, playing with leaves from the trees. Suddenly, there came a loud roar from behind the rocks. It was Shere Khan. "The man cub is mine!" he shouted. "What do wolves want with a man cub?" Some of the young wolves agreed. "We do not want a man cub to live with us in the jungle," they shouted. "Silence," ordered Akela. "You all know the law of the jungle. If 2 members of the pack will speak for Mowgli, he will stay." Mother and Father Wolf looked around the circle of wolves. They were not allowed to speak, as they were the father and the mother. That was the law of the jungle. But none of the other wolves spoke for Mowgli. Some time passed, and the wolves were quiet, looking at each other. Just as Mother and Father Wolf thought that they were going to lose Mowgli, they heard a deep voice from behind a tree. It was Baloo, the sleepy bear. Baloo's job was to teach the young cubs how to live in the jungle. He was the only animal, other than the wolves, that was allowed to speak and be listened to by the Pack Council. He spoke again with his deep voice. "I speak for the man cub," he said. "Let him live with the pack. I will teach him." Then Akela said, "We still need one more to speak up for him." Just then, a dark shadow fell over the circle. It was Bagheera, the Black Panther. "I come as a friend," he said. His voice was very soft. "I like the man cub. If you let him stay in the pack, I will give you a fat bull that I have just killed." The wolves were always hungry, and they all agreed immediately to let Mowgli stay in the jungle. Shere Khan was not pleased. He roared loudly, and then off he went. Chapter 3. Baloo teaching Mowgli. Many years passed, and Mowgli lived happily with the wolves. Mother and Father Wolf were very kind to him, and the 4 cubs thought of him as their young brother. Mowgli grew bigger and stronger as he learnt to live in the jungle. Whenever he felt dirty or hot, he swam in the jungle ponds. When he was hungry, he ate nuts or fruit. He loved to eat honey from the bees' hives. Soon he could climb trees, almost as well as he could swim and run. Every day, Mowgli went to see Baloo. The wise old bear taught him everything he needed to know about the jungle. Baloo taught him how to tell if a branch was rotten before climbing on it. He taught him how to speak politely to the wild bees when he came to eat from their hives. Then there were the hunting calls. Each creature in the jungle had a different call, and Mowgli had to learn them in case he needed to call for help. Often, if Mowgli didn't learn what Baloo taught him, the bear would punish him with his strong paw. And sometimes Mowgli was naughty like most children. He hated to sit still all morning. Baloo became very cross when Mowgli dreamt away through his lessons or did not pay attention. Sometimes Bagheera the Black Panther came to see how Mowgli was getting on. One day, Baloo punished Mowgli just as Bagheera arrived. Bagheera said, "He is still so young. He can't remember everything you teach him." Baloo replied, "No one in the jungle is too young to be killed. He has to learn. This is why I always punish him." "I was teaching him hunting calls this morning and he wasn't paying attention," said Baloo. "I want to hear them," said Bagheera. "Where are you, Mowgli?" he called. "I'm up here," said Mowgli. "Now, Mowgli, let Bagheera hear the calls I taught you this morning," said Baloo. At once, Mowgli felt happy. He was waiting for a chance to show off. "Calls for which creatures?" he asked. "The jungle has many tongues. I know them all." "Very well," laughed Bagheera. "Tell me how you would call the kite." Mowgli put his hand around his mouth. A long, clear sound came from his lips. "Very good," said Bagheera. "Now how about the snake?" Mowgli gave a low, hissing sound. Then he jumped onto Bagheera's back, just as a snake would do. Now Bagheera and Baloo knew how fast Mowgli learned the calls. Baloo was very proud of Mowgli. Mowgli said, "One day, I will be the leader of a tribe." Baloo and Bagheera looked at each other in amazement. Chapter 4. Mowgli is kidnapped. The morning's lesson was over. Baloo and Bagheera were having their midday rest. Mowgli jumped in between them and played around them until they all fell asleep. Suddenly, 2 large monkeys dropped down from the trees. They grabbed Mowgli's arms and legs and they dragged him up into the treetops. Mowgli was still half asleep and he couldn't get away. He tried to call for help, but Baloo and Bagheera were sleeping deeply. As the monkeys carried Mowgli through the jungle, his face and body became covered in scratches. The monkeys hurt his little hands. They hurt Mowgli's arms as they pulled him along. His whole body had scratches. Tears started to run down from Mowgli's eyes. He thought he wouldn't see Baloo and Bagheera again. The monkeys stopped to rest. Mowgli found himself at the top of a very tall tree, and he looked around. Suddenly, he saw Chil the kite. Mowgli took a deep breath. Then in a loud, clear voice, he made the kite call that Baloo taught him. At once, Chil flew down to see what was wrong. "Please help me, Chil," cried Mowgli. "Find Baloo and Bagheera and tell them where I am." Before Chil could reply, Mowgli was pulled back into the depth of the jungle. "Poor little Mowgli," cried Baloo when Chil told him what happened. "What can we do to save him?" "I have an idea," said Bagheera. "We should ask Kaa, the rock python, for help. He is the monkeys' worst enemy. They are more afraid of him than of any other creature." They found Kaa lying on a warm rock. When he heard what happened, he was ready to help. "But where will we find the little man cub?" asked Kaa. Just then, Chil the kite cried out,
"I saw the monkeys taking him to the cold layers."
"The cold layers?"
Kaa cried in horror.
"The great old city? No animal can go there except monkeys. We must get him at once,"
he said. Kaa and Bagheera set off at once. Baloo wasn't as fast and had trouble keeping up with them. Meanwhile, Mowgli was wandering among the old houses. He was very hungry. When he tried to run away, the monkeys put him in a house full of snakes. Mowgli remembered the snake call he had learned, so the snakes didn't bite him. Then a large cloud passed by and hid the moon. In the darkness, the black shadow of Shere Khan started moving silently. Sensing his presence, the monkeys started jumping madly in all directions. Mowgli was very afraid, and he wondered what was happening. Just then, he saw Shere Khan coming towards him. It was now clear why the monkeys had kidnapped Mowgli.
"Now this is your end," said Shere Khan. "No one can save you from my sharp teeth."
Shere Khan was starting his attack when suddenly Bagheera appeared. Seeing Bagheera, Shere Khan realized that he couldn't do anything to Mowgli, and so he left. But the monkeys were still there. They hated Bagheera so much that they attacked him. They jumped on top of the panther, biting and scratching him. Mowgli was afraid that Bagheera wouldn't be able to fight the monkeys alone. "Go to water, Bagheera!" Mowgli shouted. With all his strength, Bagheera jumped into a small pond. Just then, Baloo arrived. He started to grab 4 or 5 monkeys at a time and crush them. And then Kaa appeared. That made the monkeys' hair stand up with fear. The monkeys ran for their lives at once. As soon as he was free to move, Baloo broke the door of the house. They all left the house safely. Mowgli thanked Bagheera and Kaa for their help.
"You are a good little man cub,"
Kaa said.
"One day I may need your help."
Baloo and Bagheera set off back home. Mowgli, on Bagheera's back, fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 5. The Red Flower. Mowgli was now 10 years old. His life in the jungle was never dull, for every day brought a new adventure. Mowgli spent most of his time with Bagheera. During the day they slept, and at night they went hunting. Bagheera was worried. He noticed that Shere Khan was spending more time with the wolves in the pack. Akela, the leader of the wolf pack, was getting old. Soon a younger wolf would take his place. Without Akela, the wolves would drive Mowgli out of the pack, and then Shere Khan would have his chance. When Bagheera told him about the danger he was in, Mowgli asked, "But why would the wolves want me out of the jungle? I have lived in the jungle all my life." Bagheera stretched his neck. "My dear Mowgli," he said, "feel under my chin." Mowgli did so, and felt a bare spot, and saw that it had no black hair. "I have that bear mark, because for many years I had to wear a collar. The collar rubbed the hair. I was born in a cage in the king's palace. And I escaped and came to the jungle. I have lived among men, and I advise you to return to your real world among men and not to remain here. There you will find your true brothers. If you don't leave, you may be killed at the next pack council.
But why would the wolves want to kill me? Asked Mowgli, still shocked.
Look at me, said Bagheera. Mowgli looked into Bagheera's eyes. The panther turned his head away. That's why, he said. The others hate you because of your eyes. They hate you because you can think for yourself. You must understand this. They hate you because you are a man, not an animal.
But I love the jungle, and I don't want to run away, said Mowgli.
Then you must learn to defend yourself, Bagheera advised Mowgli.
What must I do?
Mowgli asked. You must go down to the village. Men grow a red flower there. Take some of it. Then the wolves won't come near you, Bagheera advised. Mowgli knew what the red flower was. In the jungle, the red flower was what the animals called fire. He wasn't afraid of it. Mowgli went down the hill to the village. There he saw a little girl holding red-hot coals. He snatched the pot and ran back to the jungle. At nightfall, Mowgli went to the council rock, but he didn't find Akela in his usual place. That meant that a new leader had to be found. Without Akela on the rock, Shere Khan would jump on the council rock and become the new pack leader. Chapter 6: A New Life. Shere Khan stood at the top of the rock. He started talking to the wolves as if he were the new leader. At once, Mowgli jumped up beside him.
Why let a tiger lead you? He asked. Wolves should be led by a wolf.
At that moment, the wolves shouted, You're a man cub! You have no right to speak for us! Let me take the man cub, Shere Khan growled. Let the man cub go in peace, Akela interrupted. Before Shere Khan could say anything, Mowgli picked up a branch and put some of the red-hot coal on it. At once, the flames glowed. Mowgli held the flame high above his head. The wolves and Shere Khan looked in terror and all ran to hide behind rocks and trees. Mowgli stood alone at the top of the rock.
One day, I will return to this rock and bring the skin of Shere Khan with me, he said.
Mowgli decided to leave the jungle, but he planned to return one day. Goodbye, little Mowgli, said Mother and Father Wolf. We will never forget you.
And I will always think of you,
said Mowgli as he set off sadly down the hill. Mowgli arrived at the village just as the sun was rising. He was hungry, but he didn't know how to speak to people. An old man was staring at Mowgli and called for other people to look at the strange-looking little boy. A woman said that Mowgli must be her son, who she lost 10 years ago in the jungle. Of course, Mowgli didn't understand what the woman said. The woman, whose name was Mesua, took Mowgli home. She was kind to him and fed him well. In the middle of the night, Mowgli felt a soft nose on his cheek. It was Grey Brother, one of Mowgli's cub brothers. I have news, he said in a low voice. Shere Khan is very angry and has sworn to kill you.
I'm not scared of him, replied Mowgli. Will you come and see me again?
Yes, said Grey Brother.
I will wait for you at the bamboo tree.
Then he said goodbye and off he went back to the jungle. Chapter 7: Mowgli's Plan. 5 months passed and Mowgli was very busy learning a lot about humans. Soon he could speak as well as the other children. One day, when Mowgli was looking after some cows and bulls, Grey Brother came running up to him.
Shere Khan is coming for you,
he said.
I'll be ready for him, said Mowgli, but I need more help.
I have come to help you, dear Mowgli,
cried Akela.
Akela,
cried Mowgli happily. "We must split the cows and bulls herd in two, then trap Shere Khan in the middle," explained Mowgli. "You take the cows this way, Akela," Mowgli said, "and you, Grey Brother, take the bulls the other way."
What about you, Mowgli?
Akela asked. "I will come from behind Shere Khan and skin him," Mowgli said. Mowgli climbed onto Rama, the great bull's back. Just then, Shere Khan appeared. He started running towards Mowgli, roaring and showing his sharp teeth. "Akela! Grey Brother!" shouted Mowgli. There was a huge rumbling as the wolves drove the herd forward. When Shere Khan saw the herd coming to attack him, he knew he was trapped. He roared loudly, but this couldn't help him. A huge cloud of dust covered the air when the two halves of the herd came running together. Shere Khan fell to the ground, and hundreds of feet stepped on him. Now Mowgli saw Shere Khan lying helplessly on the ground. Mowgli started to skin the huge tiger. The village children ran to tell Buldeo what was happening. Buldeo was the cruel and arrogant leader of the village. Akela and Grey Brother hid before he could see them. Buldeo couldn't believe it when he saw a young boy skinning a 10-foot tiger. "What's going on?" he asked. "Why did you let the herd rush around?" Mowgli, busy with the knife, didn't answer. "You were lucky that the tiger got in the herd's way," said Buldeo. "There is a reward of 100 rupees for the tiger skin. Give me the skin, and I will give you some rupee to keep for yourself." "The skin is mine," said Mowgli. "I don't want your money. Go away." "How dare you speak to me like that?" shouted Buldeo. "Let me have that skin." At that moment, Akela and Grey Brother jumped out from behind the rocks to attack Buldeo. "Let him go in peace," said Mowgli to Akela and Grey Brother. Buldeo was afraid when he saw them. He turned and ran all the way back to the village. Once Mowgli finished skinning Shere Khan, he expected the village people to be happy because, after all, he killed Shere Khan, the bad tiger. But the villagers were angry and they threw stones at him. "Go away!" they shouted. Buldeo told everyone that Mowgli must have been doing black magic. Mowgli didn't understand what this meant, but he felt very sad. At that moment, Messua came running up to Mowgli. "My poor boy," she cried. "I know you are good, but you must return to the jungle. The villagers will kill you if you stay. Goodbye, dear son." She kissed him, and then she ran home crying. So Mowgli, Akela, and Grey Brother ran all the way back to the jungle. Chapter 8. Mowgli Keeps His Promise. It was early in the morning when Mowgli reached the jungle. Mother Wolf was waiting for his return. "I have come back to keep my promise. I have Shere Khan's skin." And he laid the skin at her feet. "I knew you would return one day," she said with tears in the eyes. They all climbed up the council rock, and Mowgli laid the skin on the rock. "I have kept my promise to kill Shere Khan," said Mowgli, sounding very proud. "Lead us, man cub," said one of the wolves. "Let Akela and the man cub be our leaders," said another wolf. "No," replied Mowgli. "I thought you were my brothers, but you drove me away. I thought the villagers were my brothers and they drove me away too. I will hunt alone from now on." "I will hunt with you," said Grey Brother. "Don't ever forget us, little brother," said Baloo. "Yes," agreed Bagheera. "We will always be there when you need help." So Mowgli and Grey Brother left the council rock together. From that day on, they lived happily in the jungle that they loved.